Embrace the beauty of sunflowers with these 5 delightful napkin projects. For my first DIY, I got my hands on an empty snow globe from Dollar Tree and a bunch of brown rope. Using my trusty hot glue gun, I got to work, carefully swirling the rope around the snow globe's top and securing it in place. I must have repeated the process about 5 or 6 times until it totally resembled the middle part of a sunflower. It was turning out pretty awesome. Next, I grabbed some parachute cord and began the intricate process of gluing it in ring shapes to the snow globe. By doing this, I was crafting the sunflower's delicate petals. I made my way around the first layer, creating U shapes and then gluing another U to the opposite side of the cord until I formed a full circle. And that's not all. Below that, I added another layer of rings, making sure to start in the middle of the above ring to achieve that awesome petal pattern. I was really liking how it was turning out, but I felt it needed that extra something. So I found this LED light set from Dollar Tree and I checked if it worked. I decided to add them inside the snow globe, but I didn't like those black wires. I also tried this tea light candle that's also an LED light. I put it in and I thought it looked beautiful, but it wasn't really what I was going for. But then, a light bulb moment. I had these gorgeous yellow napkins from Dollarama. I took one and unfolded it. Then I placed the lights on top and taped them to the napkin using Scotch tape. It covered up those pesky black wires while still letting the light shine through. Once I slipped the napkin with lights inside the snow globe, it was magic! The yellow napkin really brought out the petal shapes and made it look like a legit sunflower. This DIY sunflower light casts a warm, inviting glow and is simply mesmerizing. I'm participating in the 5 under $5 DIY challenge, hosted by Missy over at Crafty Cove DIY, Emily from Farm Charm Chic, and this month's guest co-host is Faith Chick 777's DIY by Design. Make sure to check out their links in the description box below and also the playlist. For my next DIY, I got this gorgeous gray napkin and an empty tin can. To get started, I coated the can with Mod Podge to prep it for the makeover. Next, I gently separated the napkin into sheets and picked one of them to cover the can. The pattern on the can turned out so beautiful, but I decided to use this placemat that I got from Dollar Tree to embellish it. I went ahead and cut out those pretty sunflowers from the placemat and then carefully Mod Podged them onto the rim of the can. I made sure everything was securely in place, and I added another layer of Mod Podge over the sunflower patterns. Here's how it looks so far. I scored this gorgeous ribbon from Dollar Tree, and I knew it would be the perfect touch for my DIY. I decided to layer it on top of the sunflowers because I wanted to give my container some texture and dimension. So I grabbed that ribbon and busted out my trusty hot glue gun. I glued it to the can in a few spots. Here's the trick. I carefully turned the ribbon so it overlapped a bit. And then I added a jute twine bow. The result, the pretty pattern was still visible, but the ribbon's design gave off this cool outdoor fence vibe, adding so much character to the container. I was totally loving it. I decided to add some sunflowers inside just to complete the look. But these sunflowers looked closed, so I had to add a little bit of hot glue to it just to make sure that the sunflowers looked a bit more open. I also added some greenery to the display. And I love how it instantly brightens up my home. For my next DIY, I snagged this cute bowl from Dollarama and decided to give it a makeover. First things first, I painted the outside black. But wait, it had this really pretty pattern inside, and I didn't want to lose it, so I covered it with Mod Podge before applying the paint. I used a sponge for the paint job. I'm really loving using sponges. And while waiting for the paint to dry, I grabbed a piece of cardboard and cut it into a circle shape. Then I painted it with French linen chalk paint. It's all coming together! After that, I got my hands on this cool orange fruit napkin from Dollar Tree. I carefully cut out each segment and glued them into place onto the cardboard using a glue stick. Once all the pieces were set, I cut in between each petal to give it a more flower-like appearance. I couldn't wait to see how it looked, so I placed the bowl on top to get a glimpse. Then I went ahead and cut around the flower to define it even more. Next step, I applied more Mod Podge on top of the flower and grabbed 2 shades of yellow paint. I painted the petals yellow to give it a mix of yellow and orange, which looks so pretty. The contrast between the colors made the flower pop. Then, using Gorilla Glue, I glued the bowl to the flower so it would stay in place securely. And I added the Mod Podge bottle on the inside just to give it some weight to let it dry. This vibrant sunflower platter could rock it as a cool fruit bowl, or use it as a perfect spot to display more sunflowers. I had this old fruit roll-up box lying around, and I took my scissors and snipped off one side to start things off. Then I made a little window section on the inside of the box top. And after prepping it, I went ahead and painted the entire box with French linen chalk paint, using a sponge to dab on the paint. But that's not all. I wanted to add some extra flair. So I brought in more of that fancy gray napkin with the pretty pattern. I couldn't wait to see how it would all come together. I had an idea. I grabbed some tumbling tower blocks and went for some hot glue action. I glued them inside the box at the bottom, creating a neat ledge and adding some weight to give it a stable feel. Next, I carefully reattached the window cover using hot glue, making sure it was on there like a champ. No wobbly parts here. And you won't believe what I did next to take this DIY to a whole new level. I brought in some wooden garden stakes and I got creative. I cut up 2 long ones to use for the sides and 2 more long ones for the bottom, creating a sturdy frame around my box. But here's where it gets cool. For the top, I used those triangle-shaped pointy stakes. Talk about adding a touch of class to the whole thing. After that, I used some extra wood scraps and created a little base to stick at the back of my frame, giving it extra support and stability. I scored some flower ribbon from Dollarama and took it up a notch. I painted it a cheerful yellow color and then added tiny black circles in the middle, transforming them into adorable sunflowers. I did this for not one, but 2 ribbons, each with 5 sunflowers. They totally bring out that sunny vibe and add a touch of nature to the whole rustic look. I decided to place 1 ribbon across the top of the frame and another one across the bottom. I gotta say, it's looking pretty darn amazing so far. This DIY is giving off such a cozy and inviting vibe, and I'm totally loving it. I ran out of sunflower florals, but that didn't stop me. I noticed the daisies had a similar vibe, and I decided to work some magic. Armed with that yellow paint, I transformed this daisy into a gorgeous sunflower. I carefully twisted the stem of the flower so it faced outwards, and I hot glued it to the inside of the shadow box. But you know me, I felt it needed a little extra flair, so I grabbed some moss and an orange gourd to give it that perfect pop of fall color. It really brought out the autumn vibes and added a touch of nature to the whole arrangement. Now this DIY is a unique and beautiful display, and I'm loving the fall feels it's giving off. But I didn't like the bottom, and I totally wanted to amp up the country vibes, so I added more of that textured ribbon from Dollar Tree. And I layered it with the sunflower ribbon on top. Let me tell you, it brought that perfect country charm to the frame. And it gives off those cozy farmhouse feels, and I'm loving every bit of it. Picture it, the combination of sunflowers, moss, and textured ribbon all coming together to create a stunning farmhouse-inspired display. I grabbed this wreath form and more of those super cute yellow napkins. I folded the napkins lengthwise a bunch of times and then stuck one part of it into the wire on the wreath form, making sure it was tightly knotted. Then I realized I had a smaller wreath form, so I decided to use that instead. And you want to make sure that each one of your knots is very tight. And here's how it looks so far after I've gotten them all around the whole wreath form. Then I took some more of that beautiful gray napkin and I rolled it up to make a long tube shape. I used Mod Podge to glue it down on the inside of the wreath form, and I wound it around and around, applying more Mod Podge to make sure it stayed in place. The next step was to bend the tube so that it fit properly and covered the entire middle. This part required some careful handling to avoid any empty spots between each row. To do this, I gently curved the napkin tube in the center of the wreath form, making sure it followed the circular shape smoothly. I had to be patient and take my time adjusting it as needed to avoid any gaps or spaces between the rows. To secure the tubes in place, I added a bit more Mod Podge at the points where the tube met each other. This helped to keep them in position and prevented them from unraveling. Once I completed the entire process of winding the tubes around the middle of the form and making sure everything fits snugly, I let it dry. But wait, I had an idea. So I added some more Mod Podge on the very top, and I had these glittery gems that I decided to add at the very top just to make it more sparkly looking. But I didn't like it. So I took those gems off, and I took some more gems that were blue and I painted them black just by putting them into this little bag and adding some paint to the gems and squishing them all around. Then I took my paintbrush and I took out some of the gems and some of the paint as well and placed them on the middle of the sunflower. And I was really liking how this was looking. So I added a few more of the gold gems to make the look complete. So if you're down for some more easy and delightful sunflower DIYs, click on the next video.